It's always a choice how high you desire to go in awareness or how low you desire to remain in consciousness based on all of your choices. Recently, Joyce Hennis posted something for our staff, and I thought it was very interesting, and I'm going to bring a little teaching, partly from Anthony William and then partly from none other than Manjushri to us. So this section of a podcast or posting was called Caffeine, the Wrinkle Maker and Lip Shrinker. The caffeine addictions run deeper in people than anyone realizes. Not at the fault of anyone drinking or eating caffeine. Instead, it's unfortunately a need because so many people barely function at their best without their coffee, cacao, black teas, green teas, sodas, matcha, and other forms of caffeine. One of the problems with long-term caffeine use is its ability to draw precious hydration out of cells and tissues. This constant water draw out of facial tissue leads to wrinkles created by caffeine. Yet it doesn't stop there. Long-term caffeine use that touches the lips can draw precious resources out of the lips, creating thinner lips over time, including smoker's mouth, which doesn't require smoking at all, just the consumption of a caffeinated beverage. In this episode, which you can hear online, learn critical information about caffeine that may apply to your health and life. Learn why caffeine is the wrinkle maker, how it dehydrates the skin and creates a leather-like texture. Discover why skincare products with caffeine do more bad than good and can fast-track premature aging. Uncover how repeated lip contact with caffeinated drinks and foods can shrink and thin lips, contributing to smoker's mouth features, even without smoking. Discover how caffeine-driven adrenaline suppresses immunity and aggravates the vagus nerves, fueling anxiety, chest and throat tightness, odd sensations, and hot flashes. Uncover caffeine's role as a frequent trigger of shingle outbreaks. Find out how caffeine use during pregnancy and breastfeeding exposes infants to caffeine, fostering early addiction and undermining maternal health. Learn about caffeine weakening adrenal reserves needed for labor, raising the risk of difficult childbirth and C-sections due to insufficient adrenaline for pushing. Uncover caffeine's impact on beneficial hydration, minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants, brain cell hydration, and aging. Find out how caffeine burdens and stagnates the liver and its correlation to an increase in cosmetic procedures. So that's the summary of what is in that podcast, which I haven't listened to. So Manjushri's comments. High initiates have many choices in their lives. And though we dwell in a physical dimension and things are not what they used to be on Earth because of the change in our soil, the change in our atmosphere, the change in our water, the change in our food from what it used to be 100 years ago and more, through our choices, we either can go higher through certain disciplines, or we can choose to maintain a certain level of awareness if we continue to be subscribing to certain substances that we take in. It's always a choice how high you desire to go in awareness or how low you desire to remain in consciousness based on all of your choices. And there are many, many choices throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout our months, our years, and our lives. And meditation and prayer can, in some cases, supersede the physical dimension and bring us into an awareness that is beyond the fleshy. Yet, If we desire the highest forms of meditation, the highest forms of attunement with our God presence, the highest levels of attainment, we will try our best to follow the diet of the adepts. And the diet of the adepts is such that we refrain, first of all, from alcohol. Second of all, from meat. Third, from sugar, especially refined sugar. Then dairy. And then coffee. And then processed grains and the glutens that unfortunately now are in many of the products that are taken in breads and gluten products because of the use of glyphosate and the fact that our grains are GMO grains and they're not organic, etc. Other refined foods and the oils are next in terms of the heavy seed oils or the other oils that are very detrimental to us. And actually Manjushri is saying that the oils, the heavy oils, are even more important to eliminate even before the glutens and the grains, the processed grains. And then all other processed foods that are out there. So I'm not saying this is the exact order that you have to let go of them if you desire highest consciousness, but these are the kind of the products or the substances that we can either choose to continue having, and then we may later in life have the breakdown of certain organs and organ systems in our body, even our brains and our ability to think clearly. So everybody is different. Every person is different. Some of you may feel that you still require meat, or you require dairy, or you require coffee. What Manjushri is saying is that, of course, you make your choices based on where you are on your path, and the more you move toward the diet of the adepts, which is closer to the original adept given in the Bible in Genesis, the higher you can go in God consciousness to soar with the angels, abide with the Buddhas, have the clearest meditations, the most profound inner experiences, and the beautiful collaboration with all these higher spirits that bring you great, great joy. Why? Partly because your body temple is as pure as you can make it through your conscious choices. So for me, I know that I still eat some more sugar than I should, maybe with even the good refined sugars, let's say honey, and because honey is often refined, it's not absolutely pure. And let's say maple syrup, and which I prefer maple syrup and honey over all the other sweets. But occasionally there will be a product, if I'm traveling, that may have organic sugar or something like that. So I can make the choice to avoid that. Dairy products. I rarely ever have dairy because I know the effects on me. Some of you can handle it better than I can. For my blood type, I try to avoid any milk products, cheese, and eggs at all costs because I know their impact on me. Now, one thing that was not mentioned is eggs, and Anthony William definitely does not recommend eggs because of the compromise of what's happened with our eggs. Some of you still like your eggs, and in the general American diet, a lot of people have eggs in the morning. It's not optimal for the highest form of life for initiates. So we just heard about coffee. Elizabeth the Clare Prophet long, long ago, I think it was back in the late 70s, gave a whole lecture on coffee, and some of us remember that. She drank a lot of coffee in her life, and I think even after that lecture, she drank coffee. A lot of people they feel like they need the buzz. They require the boost. It definitely cleans you out. Yet, what are the long-term effects on your liver, on your kidneys, and on the adrenals? You can ask yourself that question. Communicate with your body temple. If you find that you get that buzz, yet later on in the day, you get tired, and then you want another buzz. Look at the consequences. Commune with your body and see, what is optimal for me. Alcohol was the number one thing that Manjushri says to avoid. Why? Because it is very addicting. And if you start to go down that route of drinking alcohol and you don't have control of your habits, God forbid you can become an alcoholic, and this is very detrimental to your life stream. I know in my last life this is probably what caused my demise, alcohol. So I have an innate aversion to it by God's grace, and some of you can handle it better because maybe you drank a fair amount earlier in your life, and you don't seem to have the negative effects that other people may have. If I have alcohol now, I would be totally out of it because my body cannot handle it or tolerate it. Yet, even those of you who think that you can handle it, I can assure you that there are impacts on your health, your vitality, your divine wellness that you may not be completely attuned to, or that I can see or other adepts can see in your aura. So please try to avoid it. Now, there are drinks that are, like kombucha, which are like 1% alcohol. Well, for a while, I was drinking a fair amount of kombucha. Well, we stopped. And fortunately, the guy that produced it here locally isn't doing it anymore, and places like Neptune's don't even serve it anymore. But kombucha, even though some people think it's great and it helps with your digestion and your gut, not so. It is something that is through the fermentation and through the fermentation itself, your body doesn't really appreciate it. And remember the first time you ever had a fizzy drink, a carbonated drink, or alcohol. What did your body tell you the very first time you had it? Did your body really like that? It's alien to our bodies to have things with carbonation or alcohol because they do a number on us and we don't even realize it. So, I had been drinking fairly recently a fair amount of ginger ale. And after hearing Mona talk to me about the problems with carbonation, I decided to give it up. So, we make our choices. I've made my choices, and I'm speaking to myself as much as to anybody else. And Manjushri is giving us this because why? Why now? We are called to live in the highest state of awareness that we possibly can. And when we abide in that Buddhic awareness and that Christ consciousness and that mother light, where we are adorned with the graces of the Holy Spirit because of the purity of both our consciousness and our body temple, we can do greater works. The greater works can be had and done when we have the purity, body, mind, and spirit, body, mind, and soul, purity, purity, purity. I remember Daniel, telling us that he hadn't had any sugar in 50 years. And he had never been to a McDonald's or a fast food place in his life. That was discipline. So I honor.
Never been in Walmart.
Never been in Walmart either. That's a little different, but so amazing, how some people, even if they are kind of exotic in some ways, in others they can be very, very disciplined, and it's amazing. So I hope you take this to heart, not as a condemnation of who you are, where you are right now in your dietary habits. It's just kind of a wake-up call so that we as a community, as a greater Aquarian seeing community, can come up higher, because I can assure you, none of these products were a problem with the Essenes. We didn't have any of these issues as Essenes. Alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy. I mean, there were some Essene communities that did have some natural milk from sheep and goats. It was pure. It wasn't refined. It wasn't homogenized, and it was okay. So other than that, I don't think that we had anything on this list, basically, because of the purity of the environment and the time. So I know you may have feedback, you may have justification for why you have to do this or that. It's fine. There's no condemnation here. It's just do what your body temple tells you to do, yet realize that sometimes we think our body elemental or our body temple is telling us to do some things when actually it's habit patterns and it's an ingrained mode that we have kind of sunk into, that we justify this or that substance that we take into our body because we really think we need it. We think we have to have it because we don't feel grounded or we don't feel this or that. If you gradually remove some of these things from your diet and supplant them with things that are still virtuous, we'll call them virtuous foods and substances, you will find that you can have less of certain things and you can actually live, and you'll still be alive. You'll still be alive. You'll still be okay, right? So everyone's different. There's no one perfect diet for everybody on the earth because we live in different environments, different zones, different situations. Yet Anthony William is the one that Hilarion recommended that we really listen to because he's done the deep dive with the spirit of compassion. And I really have found his recommendations as the best out there for the general audience, the general, mankind. Now, one other point, I've found some products that are layered, L-A-I-R-D, like the mushrooms. And if you're addicted to coffee and you want a little buzz, but you don't want the caffeine, the mushrooms are a good choice. And Anthony William actually recommends chaga. And what's the other one? Reishi. And I think there's even one other one that are okay. So Laird, L-A-I-R-D, is available in some health food stores right here in Livingston. And I've been drinking some of the mushroom products that he has there. And they're excellent. So I know you may have feedback. Please don't send me emails with your feedback on the subject. I don't require any. Sometimes when things like this happen, I get all kinds of emails, people telling me this or that. And believe me, I don't require it. Mona keeps me very healthy. And sometimes I don't listen to her, and I should. So I admit it. Anthony would like to ask Manjushri a question. Yes.
For those of us with kids, part of, especially young kids, part of the challenge is finding food that they'll eat. And like when I'm by myself, I can just eat like a chickpea salad and be happy. But their diets are very particular. Does he have any tips or recommendations? There's also a certain level of convenience. You just get sort of worn down throughout the week, and then you kind of want to just cook something frozen when you're had a really hectic day.
Okay, call Serena Gafke and talk to her. She has 3 young children. She's raised them from birth very consciously. And I think it would be great if Serena actually gave us a little talk about what she's done with her children. Because they live out in the boonies. They don't live near, they have to drive a long way to get groceries. And so I know that they probably have bulk products and things, and she makes things fresh. Not everybody has the time to make things as wonderfully as others, and that's part of the problem nowadays, that people, they want an instant food that their children can eat. The best foods are whole foods that the mother lovingly prepares and consciously, and she plans for, so that they can actually have whole foods. So the key here, Manjushri said, is whole foods. And that means as little processing as possible and as close to nature as possible. If you start from a very young age serving your children fresh vegetables from the garden and they help you garden, they will love fresh veggies, peas, beans, all the things that, we have strawberries galore on our property. Children love strawberries. They love berries of all kinds. We're so disassociated from nature, though, in our gardens that most people, they just go to the store to get all their food. Well, so Manjushri says, within a community of light like that we have, and what we had in the summit, we had gardens, we had a farm, and we could grow things and have fresher foods. Not everything, but a lot. So in an ideal scenario, you would have a couple, you'd have a garden, and you would train your children from childbirth to be, once they're a toddler, to live part-time in the garden, see the process of how you grow food. Teach children, this is food that is real because it grew. It grew in a garden. And if they know where their food comes from, they'll be enlightened and they'll realize they prefer live, fresh vegetables and fruits and nuts and grains rather than processed food that comes from a box, from a store. I know not all of us live in an ideal scenario, and if you don't have a wife or a spouse or a husband who's into gardening or whatever, then obviously you're going to be going to the store to get virtually everything. So move toward the whole foods as much as you can, and teach your children about food, where it comes from. Go to gardens. Have them experiment with things and grow things from seed, and watch how they become enlightened and actually enjoy eating a carrot right out of the ground rather than getting one from a store. Okay, did you desire to say something? Okay, you have to speak into a mic. So that was Manjushri's teaching through me. Whole foods, gardens, and try to, raise children to appreciate what comes out of nature. Okay.
I was just going to say some farms have visits, especially with children, and then also you pick situations like that could be really helpful.
You pick, yeah, like the berries and things. Okay, why is this subject coming up? I think it's because we're doing more meditation now than we ever have. We're having 20 to 30-minute meditations. Many of you have taken the training from Ananda Ma. When you start meditating, you will notice, if you discipline yourself, you can go higher and higher and deeper, have more profound experiences. Your diet at a certain point does impact where you go and how high you go and how deep you go. And so the purer your body temple, the purer your meditation will be, and the purer your consciousness will result in being. So that's the basic teaching.